Fear and anxiety are a real thing, let me tell you. So I've been sharing my story, how I was diagnosed with DID, and just the process of counseling for years, listening to the different personalities share their stories and how I embraced them. And one day just went, oh my gosh, all that trauma happened to me. And I just blended and embraced all the parts. And so here I am. I am newly blended, newly whole. I am going through the grief of what happened to me. But my coping mechanism disappeared. See, a lot of people have coping mechanisms. They'll go drink to deal with stress or anxiety or whatever, or they'll do different things. My coping mechanism was to flip. If something got too stressful, if something got too much, I would flip into a different personality and let them take care of things for me. But here I am. I am now whole. It is just me. There is no longer separate parts. Like, when I would get stressed and I would start spinning like I used to, there was no one to flip into but me. And here is a case in point. It was a little bit after I was blended. Jen, my best friend, and I decided to go to a museum because she loves museums, and so do I. And so we made plans and we went down to this museum, and we were going through, and art is a very subjective thing, and a lot of people put their emotions into art. And we saw all kinds of pictures on the wall, and there was this giant sculpture that we saw, like taller, half my body size, that was a demon. And it was just, the sculpture work was amazing, and it was a little creepy. And I'm like, hey Jen, check this out. But I was fine. I was good. Not a problem. And we're going through this museum, and we turned a corner. And as soon as we turned the corner, all I know is I went, Jen, I don't feel so good. I really don't feel so good. So she went with me to the restroom. I literally thought I was going to throw up. I was having a massive panic attack. Talk about anxiety and fear. I was sitting on the floor in a public restroom. Not the wisest thing, but it was a fairly new museum, so it was rather clean. I was sitting on the floor just literally having a massive panic attack. And if I could have flipped into another part, I would have, because I was just so freaked out. And Jen was talking to me, and she'd worked with me for the last few years when I was divided, and she knew how to help me calm down. And she's like, what'd you see? And I'm like, I don't know. I told you I saw the giant statue of that demon, but I saw it. No biggie. Like, I do not know what has freaked me out, and I could not calm down. I could not catch my breath. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I felt like I was going to throw up. I was just nauseous. I couldn't even stand up. I was so sick. I was so sick, and I had no idea why. And after about a half hour, we finally gave up. And God bless Jen's heart. She's like, let's just go home. It's okay. Let's just go home. Like, literally, she gave up her day at the museum just to take care of me. And if you want to know what an amazing friend that is, Jen is an amazing friend. I love you to pieces, Jen. So here we go when we get in the car, and I am still just paranoid, and I am shaking, and I am, if you've ever had a panic attack, you understand there's this massive fear for no reason, and it is just there, and I could not get it to calm down. We tried praying, I just had no idea what was wrong with me. And Jen goes, why don't you call Leah? So I did. I called Leah on the phone, and like literally, that's how I sounded. I was just a mess. And I said, we're at the museum with Jen, and I'm freaking out, and I don't know why I'm freaking out. And Leah goes, yes, you do. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't know why I'm freaking out. And she goes, yes, you do. You're just afraid. And it's okay to be afraid. What is it you're afraid of? I'm like, I don't know. And she goes, yes, you do. You know what you're afraid of. God bless her. I don't know how she knew that. But when I stopped and thought about it, I went, when we turned the corner, I could not remember what we saw when we turned to the corner. But when we turned to the corner, there was a woman in a clear box, per se, coffinish type. I remember seeing that, and it freaked me out. Like, I'm sure it was a mannequin, and I'm sure there was some kind of sculpture. I didn't even get to read what that sculpture was because there was a lot of sculptures in that part of the museum. But it was me seeing a person in a coffin type box, even though it was clear and see-through, just absolutely freaked me out and triggered me. And Leah was right. I knew, but I was scared to know. And so once I figured out what I had seen, what I was afraid of, what the fear was, I calmed down. The panic went away. The heart pains went away. The shaking stopped. I no longer felt nauseous. And I was back to being okay. Now the thing was, I wasn't flippy anymore. I didn't turn into different parts. But I still had to learn how to cope with stressful situations and fearful situations and fear and anxiety. And Jen prayed with me, and she's such a sweetheart. And we did go back to the museum later, not that day, but later. And I just gotta say, find coping mechanisms that work. And if you don't know them right away, just keep practicing and keep trying, because that's what I had to do. I had to learn new coping mechanisms to deal with my stress. But I'm 20 years on this side of things and doing much better. Thank you so much for listening to my story.